from unknown number.
Hello. Has Jane joined us?
Jane's on.
I'm here.
Yeah, Jane's
And
here.
Marcy should be on any minute now because I texted her and
I thought we'd see something with your name on it, Jane.
you can't see it?
Nope, I can't.
Oh,
I can.
Oh, you can?
I can see, yeah.
Okay, good. As long as she's here. I just see the 6 faces. Yeah, video on. Hi, Georgia. Hi, Denise, Dave,
Hi.
Rich, Michael.
Yep.
should have a full house except for Frank, so
Good. Oh,
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
I can hear you. Can't see
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry. My system was taking 100 years to load and like flipping all over the place. I have like 3 windows, 3 tabs open. Crazy.
Mine was a little slow, but
Can
I
you
didn't
see
have
me? No. Well, that's all right.
Hold on. I
you have
will.
your video turned off?
Probably not by choice.
Bottom left?
Not seeing it. Like I say, it's been a really weird and unusual load. Usually it gives me the opportunity. Oh, the house. Oh, here, start my video. The host asked me.
Yes, I did.
Usually it just, gives you the thing. Okay.
All right. I think we're all
Put
here.
mascara on. I just want you to know.
Okay. All right. I will open the May 4th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Thank you all for being here. We have several items on the agenda, but the first item is a public hearing. Jane, do you know if there will be people? There'll be people coming for the other ones, right? The
You mean
applicants?
the other applications or
Yeah.
you mean for comments?
Yeah, it's only one public hearing, right?
Exactly. But I mean, the
Okay.
applicants are,
Yes, there will be
Planning
somebody, as far as I know, for both. I mean, Josh is here for 10, and as far as I know, there's going to be somebody here representing both 28 and 50 Chestnut.
okay, good. All right. So I'll open the public hearing for 49 Beaver Street. Jane, have there been any public comments?
Nope, other than the email that I had forwarded on to everybody today.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look at that? It just came in late this afternoon, but
Yes, I have.
we want to make sure everyone has a chance to read through it. So if you haven't, we'll give you time. Is there anyone that need to read through it?
No.
Okay.
I read it.
And Jane, you said that you've talked with Martin about this, and as you said in your note, that he said it should not interfere with the variance request because it's really kind of addressing issues that are not specific to a variance.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would ask that just for information that be added to the file for this project.
Susan, just for the minutes, can you just clarify what you meant? Martin said that it shouldn't interfere with the variance request because it's not relevant to a variance request?
It doesn't address the variance specifically. It addresses, I think, more of a property line issue still.
Yeah, I wasn't here last time and I apologize for that. It just left my brain. I have no excuses. I did listen to the video and I've read the minutes. However, just bring me up to speed. Is there a request to take down trees?
No.
The request
No.
before us.
Okay. And then the idea of it being, is it directly on the property line?
That's what I understand. Is that correct, Rich, that your plan is to build it right up to the property line?
I'm trying to, there's a picture from the back that shows the trees from the survey are clearly on our property. We're planning on putting a fence in the back section on the property line.
So you're taking the trees down?
Not touching the trees. Trees are not part of this. They're not, they're
Okay.
clearly
Oh,
on our
okay,
property and
I
we're
just
not,
want to make sure I know everything. So
right.
the
So
trees are not moving. The trees are
Trees-
not going anywhere.
I was a little confused also. Is it bushes that they're worried about or was it trees?
Trees.
we lost 5 or 6 of these trees in a snowstorm, and you can see pictures that I've submitted. Do you have those pictures to show?
Yeah.
Is it that one, Rich?
Yeah. So basically, there's the stake, there's the stumps, and these are poorly maintained hedge that 5 of them came down in a snowstorm. A number of them are poorly surviving. We have no plans to take them down. I imagine some are going to fall down under their own weight in the near future, but this is about a fence and a variance.
Okay, so, but the trees are just so I know, not that I know much about trees, but those are hemlocks.
No,
What are they?
cedar.
Cedar. Okay, all right. Wow, can't believe
And
it.
I would rather not get into that here because this is
Yeah.
not a forum for that, frankly.
Well, yeah, I know, but I just want to clarify everything because the neighbor's letter talked about the trees. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
And I would say, I don't know if anyone else took the opportunity to go and kind of see the property. I went by this afternoon, and that's the first time I really had recognized where the trees were. It does look like it's maybe a challenge to get the fence in on what is, my guess is where your property line is. And the only reason I bring that up is that Jane said that she had mentioned to you before that removal of trees, unless they're diseased or dangerous, there's an exception for that. But you have to be aware that the zoning law does not allow you to remove more than 30% of trees in a 10-year period.
We've submitted. We are in compliance. We want to be in compliance. I want to plant more trees.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, please.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions about what the request is?
And okay. All right, it's going to be on the property line. Okay, again, just so I know, I have like some confidence when I discuss this. The fence will be directly on the property line. Is there agreement between you and the neighbor as to what the property line is?
We could not come to any agreement. We paid for a land survey.
Mm-hmm.
We have had them review it with particular attention to the cross property
Then
line.
review it. Which them?
Braun survey.
Okay. Okay.
So-
So the
so-
crosses have not reviewed it and given their blessing.
They've received it and
Oh, okay. Okay.
have-
I just want to. All I want to know is where I'm
Let me
at.
finish. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
They've received it and have not respected it. So again, this is a legal survey. We're taking our time and having them recheck
Mm-hmm.
it with the utmost caution. But there's only so much we can do from our standpoint, trying to pursue a valid fence through the valid process, basically.
Okay. I am not trying to hassle you. Trust me. You say they haven't accepted it, meaning they don't agree with, what exactly did they say? You gave it to them and they said nothing, or you gave it to them and they said, oh no, that's wrong?
We gave it to them, and again, I think we're going far afield from a 1-foot variance request. So
I agree. Okay. But tell me what they said. What's their deal?
we gave them a
As you
survey.
understand.
We gave them a survey. They have, in the front yard, have placed stakes on my property, claiming it's their property,
Mhm.
in denial of the survey.
Uh-huh. Okay. So if we were to go back to them and say, hey, wait, why are these stakes here? Do you have a survey to back it up? I mean, it seems that they're laboring under the idea that there's a different survey.
We've
Or have
welcomed
you
any,
not
we
discussed
welcomed
it?
any additional information.
Okay,
We've
okay.
welcomed any survey that they pursue on their own. We would be
Uh-huh.
happy to review that and incorporate it. So basically, we couldn't come to an agreement.
Mhm.
We've got a survey, and we couldn't come to an agreement. And so we are trying to, I mean, can you show the picture of how wide open it is in the backyard now? We've had deer in our backyard. It's, some of the seclusion that we're hoping I mean, my hope is I get to retire someday and work in my garden in my backyard and enjoy myself. We see Bassett Hall very clearly. We have no property, and without a clear sense of enclosure, I don't want to put trees in and things in front of that. Just out of frame here, we have a nice magnolia that we put in. We've taken down 3 trees in the last 10 years and put up 3 trees. And our plan is to put up more trees. You'll notice it's pretty clear cut from our property to all the way across the cross property.
Wait, what am I looking at here?
This is the Cross's backyard from my yard.
Okay, so that building on the right, is that yours?
The barn,
Yeah.
that's the Tam. That's the back corner of,
Oh, okay, so that's not yours.
right. The black
Okay.
fence posts are the Cross's fence.
Uh-huh. Okay, so they do not have a fence erected in the way that I think of a fence.
There's nothing on the side yard. There's a
Okay.
little
And that-
damaged area.
That white thing on the left, that white fence on the left,
That is
Yeah.
that is just a privacy screen set up by myself about it.
who owns that? You own that.
Yeah, it's well inside that's on the other side of the
Yeah,
trees.
okay, no dispute there. Okay, I just want to know what I'm looking at.
And you'll see
Okay.
that, can you go back to that view again? There was a fair amount of cutting down. You'll see there's stumps there from the solid trees to the screen. If you blow it up, those are removed by the Crosses, and there's another one that they cut down on their side.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that stone wall.
I put it in.
Uh-huh.
And I'm hoping to, again, have a sense of enclosure and be able to garden and utilize the property fully. We want to take down the fence at the middle part of the property, if you can
Yeah.
show that, so that we can enjoy we fenced it in because we have small dogs. We only have one left. We want to make this so we can look at our whole property, basically. And this is what we've been looking at for the past year as we started this process in March or April of last year. We got our supplies once we got approval by HPARB, and then we couldn't come to any agreement, and so we've just been sitting here. So I'm sorry for any frustration, but what should be a process of putting in a survey and a fence has turned into, now we're year 2.
Actually, regarding this photo in particular, is that stake with the little red tie on it, does that indicate where the land surveyors
Yes,
determined your properties to be?
yes,
Okay, so on the right is the Crosses property?
correct.
Okay.
And that's
The
according to,
trees, so those trees, there's those stumps, those are the ones that fell down in the storm.
And I paid to have them removed, and I removed
Uh.
additionally myself.
Yeah, okay.
As
And that,
looking at this view, do you intend to place the fence directly on that property line or kind of closer over towards the stone?
They're directly on the property line, and that the other end of it is, if you can see where the foundation is, if it could blow up there a little bit, you might be able to see it. There's a stake in the ground there. It doesn't show up well, but it's kind of between, it's probably lower, and it might not show up. So basically, there is about 2.5 feet, and there's a stake in the middle there somewhere. That is where the property line is. We would need to get a raised stake survey and have that done more formally. But that kind of tells you where we're aiming for, which is that halfway in between. You can see it on that spot. See there, if you blow it up a little bit. And again, it's not showing up well, but it's basically that big pipe is on my property. and the stake is kind of between that, if you will. So it's a small, narrow space between existing fence and the foundation, and we can certainly fit a fence right in the middle of that.
Can I ask so is there a dispute with where the property line is that's outside of the trees?
They're not recognizing the land survey.
When you say they're not
But yes,
recognizing, are they
there's a
suggesting?
dispute.
So yes,
There's a
so they're
dispute.
suggesting that they own the property, and your survey shows that you own the property.
They have not given us a counter of what they own. They're just claiming things.
Right, but just so I understand clearly, they're claiming that they own that property.
I can't speak for them.
So but they have not presented us with a survey of their own.
Correct.
Okay.
Or any documents or any information that we would welcome.
Right, yeah, but I mean, in other words, they have taken umbrage, but they have not given us their own survey. Okay.
Or facts that would help us make sure we get this right. We've asked them, I gave them written requests for that last fall before we did the survey. If they had any pertinent information about the property line, we'd welcome including that so we get it right. I mean, we're not trying to steamroll this, but it's a process where there's been hurdles at each point, let's just say.
Right.
And practically speaking, certainly a survey is typically the answer for any kind of property line question. But the exact location of the property line is a civil issue really between the two neighbors. It's our responsibility is height at that spot. But we are not responsible for locating that spot. We are just responsible for addressing the request for a height variance to allow 5 feet rather than 4 feet, or up to 5 feet rather than 4 feet.
And I think I tried to put my arguments without being redundant, but we have a sunken backyard. There used to be a pool back there. It is significantly below grade, and the garage is above grade. I mean, it's basically mounded and built. So if you can go back and look at the corner there, where the garage foundation is. So our 5-foot fence would be able to meet the 4-foot fence that's on the edge of our property there. So that's how much there's a wall there I built. It's at least 22 inches high, retaining wall. So basically the amount of visible, can you, yeah, here's one, that one before there.
Okay.
So this fence is 4 feet, and this, you can see how it swales down. We're anticipating that we could meet this fence at the same height, basically. So it would be no higher than the existing 4-foot fence in the middle yard heading into the backyard.
Okay. Does everyone understand?
And that's the retaining wall I built when we first moved. It turns out there was a lot of stone on the property, and a former owner said he picked it up in his Chevy wagon in the 1960s from a Clark wall that was being torn down, and it was all over the property. So I just collected it all and built a retaining wall there to kind of hold up that part of the property.
Okay. All right, so we need to go through the criteria, since I'll close the public hearing at whatever
So
time.
the crosses are not going to participate.
It
I
is
mean, we're
did
not
not
waiting for them.
request.
They're just not participating beyond their letters.
better, right? Well, I mean,
Okay.
during these Zoom meetings, whenever Jane sends out the invitation, she makes it clear that we can only address comments that come in writing. So
Oh, okay.
this is what came
I
in.
mean, we have let people join, but that's based on requests from the actual applicants. The crosses did not contact me either by phone or email
Okay,
asking
then that's
to
fine.
join
I
the
just wanted to
meeting.
make sure we weren't waiting for them before we closed.
No.
the hearing.
No,
Okay.
so the time is 5:18. I will close the public hearing. And
Thank
then-
you.
Then we'll go through the variance criteria. The Browns have submitted new information today in response to that, or we got it today. I don't know when it was submitted. And And I'll just go through the different criteria, read their response, and then anyone can ask any or offer any other additional comments or ask any questions.
Should I get off this call then? Is that
No, I think you can stay on as
okay?
applicants can stay through the decision. I mean, in case you have a question, we'll ask you, but in
Okay.
general, the discussion from this point, unless we ask a question of you, will be among the board. So in making our determination, we take into consideration the benefit to the applicant. If the variance is granted, weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. And we shall also consider whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance. And the Brown's response is, it's our opinion that the variance seeking a 5-foot fence height versus a 4-foot fence height will not produce an undesirable change of character in the neighborhood or nearby properties. We're seeking to install a traditional style fence we've used on our property and is widely used throughout the village. The fence will be painted white on both sides and of equal quality on each side. With the loss of trees by snow damage and increased pruning, there's been significant loss of privacy. See the photo. We feel that this fence would actually add to the neighborhood character, privacy, and peaceful enjoyment of our backyard area. Does anyone else have any thoughts to add to that? General agreement, I would say. Second, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. The response is, please see the additional letter dated April 12th or pictures and details. I think we received that last time. Or maybe not. What is the reference to the April 12th letter?
Thought that was in the other one, but
That would have been after our last meeting, right?
hold on, let me,
Included in the meeting material. It's a fourth page,
Okay.
fifth page.
Sorry, I sent that out before I realized there was a formal response format.
Okay, that's all right. Well, I'm going to read your response and then we'll also read whatever it says in that April 12th letter. When we purchased our home in 2004, one of the main attractions was that it was in the village, but also had some areas to garden and significant privacy. One of the things that we did was build a lower masonry wall with steps down to the lower sunken area in the backyard. We've been told that this had formerly been the site of an in-ground pool. We've been perfectly happy with the hedge and how it created a defined garden room. Since the snow damage, trees fell and had to be removed, this sense of enclosure and privacy has disappeared and we have increased deer traffic. One favorite garden show is P. Allen Smith on garden design. He speaks about creating a sense of enclosure as a fundamental principle. At this point, we have a large open section and a grouping of poorly maintained trees. At least with a fence, we would have some degree of privacy and could consider how to recreate the sense of enclosure. We recognize it's not high enough to be a deer fence, but at least may slow down the casual wandering deer.
okay. So these are the photos that he was referencing is this document. So you've seen most of these
That
photos.
page has
so-
April 12th on it.
Okay,
Right.
so let me just read that real quick. I'll read it out loud. I want to thank the committee for the work they do. We'd welcome anyone on the zoning board to walk our yard to review this, but please knock on the front door or call to schedule a time. Following the meeting, I realized I did not clarify some points. The crosses are a downhill neighbor. Note when the cross garage foundation was done, historically, they mounded dirt for the foundation, and this is significantly above grade at the point where the fence connects in the mid-yard. We'd welcome some relief for our view. At no point would it be higher than the 4-foot fence it is connecting to in the mid-yard. When we went through the HPARB process and were approved for the variance, actually that was not a variance, but HPARB review, we did reach out to include the crosses, and at that time they chose not to respond by submitting a letter or attending the meeting last year. In the interim, we planned out the use of our property, contracted with owning on a fence, purchased a fence, including 24-foot sections of the 5-foot fence, and went through a process to paint this. They've been sitting on our property for the past year below. Okay. All right.
I mean, the letter goes on, but it was part of the application process or application everybody received. So I don't know if you need to continue reading it or not.
How many more? Is it just that paragraph or more pages?
I don't think you need to read it all. We already read it.
Okay,
Yeah, I read it.
Just go back to the questions.
okay. So any other comments on question 2 about the benefit?
No.
Okay, number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. As I drive around Cooperstown, I see privacy fences that have been granted that are over 6 feet tall. We're proposing a 5-foot fence that would never go higher than the adjacent 4-foot fence in the middle yard. Scallop design further reduces the overall visual impact. We have a sunken backyard below the natural grade, and we're trying to coordinate the fence on both sides of the property for a seamless look. We also note that this fence will be significantly lower than the nearby property fence on the adjacent property's back line.
Privacy fence.
Can we see that picture?
Which one was that one?
It's the barn shot. It's the open area
Okay,
between them.
yep.
So,
That
so
one?
you, yeah, so you'll see there's actually 2 different versions of privacy fence that are 6 feet high on the adjacent section of on the adjacent part of the Cross's property.
All right. So any other comments on whether it's substantial?
No.
No,
It basically
I mean,
only
no.
has to be 5 feet high because the slope, it's sloping down.
Right.
It's not really a
no.
overall height. Okay. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The main impact we can see is on reduction in deer traffic. The fence designs an open design allowing light and airflow. Does anyone else see any adverse effect? No. Okay. And then whether the alleged difficulty. Pardon? Echo. Whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. So the response is, we've attempted to comply with village policy and direction. We informed our neighbors of our plan, went through the HPR process last year. Once we had a legal permit, we contracted for the fence installation, purchased the fence supplies and painted them. They've been sitting on our property approaching 1 year. When we went to install the fence, could not get agreement with our neighbors about the property line. We held off installation and arranged at cost to us for a land survey. When the survey was shared, we were notified of this zoning board of appeals process. We asked the zoning board to recognize the significant delay and costs that we've been undergoing related to the process. If this variance is not granted, it creates an additional hardship for us in terms of purchasing and painting new fence. And I don't see how we could have avoided this. As I said in the letter of April 12th, we have significant concerns about the aesthetic result if different from our original plan. We've proceeded in good faith based on HPAR approval with our design. The plan is for a matching fence to be on the Cross's side. Certainly we would notice aesthetic in a similar way that one would notice 2 different size shutters around a window. One of our hopes is that with the hardscape installed, we could more fully develop the landscape in the lower yard. So I would just add, the comment about whether the alleged difficulty is self-created is actually a reference to whether basically the zoning law with this provision existed when you bought your house, and it did. Virtually all variance requests are self-created because it's, you're subject to the zoning law that's in effect. Does anyone have any other thoughts or comments, any discussion before we entertain a motion?
I don't have any.
Nope. Marcy, you feel like making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to grant an area variance to allow for a 5-foot tall cedar fence along the east side property line of 49 Beaver Street as submitted because it complements the already existing 4-foot fence, accommodating the variation in grading of the property.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Who seconded?
David.
Dave,
I can't, you have to say, because I can't see, because I'm looking. at
Okay,
David.
sorry.
That's okay.
Dave Wood. I actually didn't notice, is it a cedar fence or should we just say fence?
It's cedar.
It is cedar? Okay, that's right.
It's painted,
Okay. All right. No further discussion. We'll take a vote. I'll say your name because I think we're probably in different order. Randy,
Aye.
Susan, I, Denise,
Hi.
Marcy,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Oh, I gave Randy the vote instead of you, George. I apologize. I was not thinking this through.
Mine's also an aye, so works out.
Okay, all right. 6 out of 5. All right, thank you.
I was going to ask if you needed me to vote or not. I don't know if you had then.
I wasn't thinking that through. Okay. Okay, so the variance is granted. Good luck.
Okay. It's Susan.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well,
I appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Bye now.
All right.
Susan,
Yes.
before you go on, I have 2 questions. Who am I counting for votes tonight?
Good point.
Technically, it should be Georgia because she was
Okay.
appointed before Randy was.
She's the first alternate. Yeah.
Georgia, David, Marcy, and
Susan, yeah.
Georgia, David.
Sorry about that confusion.
Wait, aren't there 5? 1, 2,
Denise,
and Denise.
Denise,
Okay.
right, yeah.
Thank you for asking.
And the other question I have is about that motion, because usually the motions don't have that kind of detail in it.
Well, I know, but I wanted to, considering the situation, I wanted to make it very clear
Why you
why,
did it.
in other words, what if it were 4 feet, we wouldn't even be here.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
understand it. I just wanted to know, I just wanted to understand about putting it in the. actually
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
motion.
it got seconded, so let's move on. I think that it's just, seeing as there's like already disagreement brewing, I think it's important just for us to clarify the reason why we think it's okay.
Okay,
In
Yeah.
other words, it's 4 feet is okay anyway. And we're letting it go to 5 feet because of the particular characteristics of this property. And the 5 feet is actually making it more compatible with the law.
Yeah, and I would say even though I think that'd be fine, it was fine to have that in the motion because we did not specifically kind of state that in any of the discussion, even though we kind of worked around it in different ways. So I think it's helpful to have that clarity.
okay. But it's not always going to have that much detail in it.
No, sorry, I won't always do that.
No, that's okay. I don't
Yeah.
mind. I was just trying to figure out if this is a new
Yeah.
approach or what was happening. Okay,
Yeah, I would say it doesn't happen very often, but it may happen again someday. Who knows?
okay.
All right, so let's move on to 28 Leatherstocking Street. It's also a variance request. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thanks. Welcome. So you submitted good information. Do you want to give us a general overview or describe what your plan is?
Sure. So my wife and I are planning a large renovation project for 28 Leatherstocking. What we're looking to extend is an addition of a porch that was added 50 some odd years ago. And we're just looking to extend that out so it is flush with the rest of the side of the house.
Okay. All right. And so it would be 2.4 feet from the property line?
Yes.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, there's a tree. Is that a neighbor's tree or is that your tree? Real close?
That's a great question. I'd like to say it's mine, but I'm not certain.
Are you thinking about moving that tree or,
We have to remove
I mean,
it?
is that part of this or not?
I don't believe it was.
Okay.
It maybe depends on how you build it, but it may be challenging to build it that close to the tree. But if there's any question of removal of the tree, just talk to Jane first because there are rules about how many trees you can remove. All right, so it certainly seems that there's clear information about the, physical size and the height of it. Does anybody have any questions?
No, it looks pretty straightforward.
So the process is that this requires a variance, which will require a public hearing. So we will set the public hearing up for the first Tuesday in June, our next meeting. And this one will begin at 5 o'clock. Jane will send out notifications to all the adjoining property owners so that they have a chance to, weigh in on it and get whatever questions answered, and they can also submit comments. And if Jane hasn't given it to you already, there is a list of kind of criteria, the ones we just went through for the previous project. Oh, I'm sorry, you already have that answered, right? That's part of your package. Okay, I think you're all set. All right, so this will be set up for whatever that date is.
June 1st.
June 1st, thank you.
June 1st at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yep. That sounds good. We'll see you then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm. All right. On to
You know
I
what?
have not
his name
seen
was?
Georgia yet. What?
What was his first name? I don't think he's Emily, probably.
No, he
Oh,
is not.
my name is Douglas.
Oh, thank you. You're still there. I would have asked you. Thank you.
You don't see Georgia?
Not yet. I sent her I just sent her an email saying, asking her if she was gonna be around. So you want to start with Josh then?
Yeah, we'll have to move on to Josh. Okay, so is he on deck? Okay, hi, Josh.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. So 10 Chestnut Street. Lots of information in the packet. You want to give us a summary?
Yeah, the brief overview is some of which pertains to your board and some of which pertains to the other boards in the village. But the general idea is that we're going to be removing the existing buildings on the property and then moving to build this project, which is a multifamily building, which has a lot of different facets to it. But the main things that are going to be coming up are we have some egress to deal with, as well as parking and trash and a height question on variance, as well as the property has been abandoned for, I don't know how many years, but quite some. And so there is tree work that needs to be done. Next door to the Clancy's, there's actually a number of trees that are already scheduled to be taken down because they're falling on the house. That didn't get us anywhere near 30%, so it didn't.
Wait, which side is that?
So if you scroll to the left
That's
there, where
yeah.
that egress lane is planned,
Uh-huh.
there's about 6 trees that are scheduled to be taken down. We got a call from the neighbor, and apparently there's some issues and they're falling on his house. And so those are scheduled to come out, but it keeps us under that 30%, which is why we hadn't brought that up. But the project as a whole, where the parking is along the 15-foot public lane on the south side of the building there's a mixed number of trees, some of which qualify for the criteria that would apply to this board and some of which are smaller. But they would all be coming out to make room for the parking. The big trees on the north, those would be staying in place. Those are, I think everyone except for one is actually on the neighbor's property, so those won't be touched. And out front, we don't have plans to do much with trees. So
Have you done a tree count for the whole total property?
we haven't done. There's a lot.
If you would just do that though to confirm, or do it to the extent
that
that you
helps
do to
us.
confirm
Sure.
that there's no question, because at some point you'll continue to develop the rest of the property, and
Right.
it'll be, assuming it's within 10 years, it'll be a question then also.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have, I mean, you can read the regulation on it, but obviously if you have a landscaping plan that includes planting new trees or whatever, whatever your landscaping plan is, presenting that at the time that you're asking for trees to come down is good information for us.
Right, if you need a variance, as far as we're concerned, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to refresh me, is it 6-inch diameter, 4 foot off the ground?
Correct.
Okay.
It actually doesn't say how to measure, where to measure, but
It does. It's 4 feet off the ground.
it does say that now?
Yep.
Do we add that? Okay.
Yeah, it's in there.
It's
All
so
right.
it's more than 30% within a 10-year period.
Okay. I'll give Jane the tree count then, along with the number that we're taking out.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah, and find out about your neighbor, the trees that your neighbors feel are damaged. That's just useful information for us.
sure, right now, there's only one tree that is actually not on our property. That we may take down, just because it's dead and it's hanging over and the neighbors were fine with it and we'd feel a lot more comfortable. The rest of the trees are on our property, and the only ones that are at risk right now that need to come down are the ones along that 24-foot egress bordering the Clancy's property.
Anything that's diseased or dangerous, which is a little subjective, does not have to be in that count, but certainly anything that's, dead, you don't have to worry about that one. Those you can take those down. But
Yeah, but does that change what we would count as 30%?
No, you don't count any trees that are dead, damaged, or
Okay, but in other words,
causing issues.
if I have 100 trees, I could request taking down 30 of them. But if 10 of them are already dead, does that mean
then you have 90 trees
and I can only take down
30%?
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
I think in that scenario, you'd have 90 trees and you'd only be taking down 20.
Okay.
Is that correct, Jane?
And the dead ones don't count. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
30% would be more than 20, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But I get what he's saying.
Yes.
And then,
dead trees don't count towards a total or the ones being removed.
Okay, gotcha.
Another question that we kind of have for the ZBA board is in relation to a height variance. Jane, if you could show.
Yep.
I think it's a couple pages later.
Yep.
There's one page that shows all three heights. Is the next page. All right, this page right here.
Is it that one? Okay, it is that one.
Yeah. So on this page here, top left, you have the front average height, which is 27 feet, 11 and 7. So 28 feet is our average front elevation height. And our
this
back
whole length here.
Yeah. And then our back elevation height here.
21 4¾
Yeah. So 21 feet 4 inches. And the only one that is sort of a question for us is our side height, which you can see in the middle of the building there. Measured from the front corner there, our average roof height is 30 foot 11 inches. And so that's where we raise the question of, do we need an 11-inch variance, or do we measure that from the average grade on the side there, or do we average the front elevation and this elevation? And that's what we didn't really know the answer to.
Not a question that comes up very often. I would say one way we could look at it is if there's other variances, we should address that one. But I would say possibly if you take the two long elevations and average those.
Because it's basically it's looking at the front elevation, and this is what, 27 or whatever, and then this is 30 foot 11. Do you combine those and do the average for both of those?
No,
or do you look at each one as an individual? I think is what Josh is trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think it's the midpoint of the highest one myself.
Okay.
But I do think that your average grade changes, and so it's always relative to the average grade, because it looked like on that parking side, it was rising towards the left.
It is rising towards the left. It rises quite a few feet by the time we get all the way towards the back, and so.
And I don't know if it does that same thing on the other side. I mean, I do think that it's it's a very modest variance request.
I know that there may be some neighbor feedback, not about issues on the height, but on approving a variance for height, just in terms of what it might set for precedent. And so that was why I thought the first question would be, what are we determining as our height that needs a variance?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's up to Jane to make that interpretation.
Yeah.
And then for us to kind of review it if you challenge it.
Yeah, I mean, we just had we just gave an area variance that where grade was an issue. So, I mean, that is something that is relevant. And
I think if you look at the top view, there's not the same change in
Right.
elevation from the front to the back.
right,
So I think if you look at that elevation from the midpoint of that higher part of the building to the top of the roof, it's more than 30 feet.
That is where we come up with the 30-foot, 11 inches.
yeah. So if that is what we, Jane can do more homework on this and advise us. But if that is where we are, it is an 11-inch.
Yes, I interpreted that it is the 11 inches. But
Uh-huh.
it was kind of, also, I was gonna let you guys kind of weigh in as far as reasoning for it not to be, if you could come up with anything. But when I read the actual definition for the heights, I couldn't come up with an excuse not to make it the 11-inch
Uh-huh.
issue. So
So,
as you know, basically the same thing as what Randy said. On the northern elevation, there is no grade change, so you're looking at the whole thing. But
Yeah.
if you're counting this elevation as how you're determining the height, if you were going to take the average of this whole thing, I'm sure it's less than 30-foot 11.
Yeah,
you're-
right. That's it. And I think,
Right.
and then if you look at the front door, you know, there's something happening there too. I mean, like I say, the absolute max would be an 11-inch relief from the 30-foot. But
I mean, to me, it seems
yeah,
like
I mean, in other words,
it's-
for me, I would like to clarify between now and the next meeting exactly what we're giving, how much relief we're giving. I mean, what average, you know, if you look at the front door, the average is going to be a little different. So, you know, I just want to know, you know, I like to have all of my ducks in a row if this comes up again somewhere else.
I mean,
So-
I feel that you guys would be better off considering this, because if you sit there and say, well, we can accept the fact that average is out and all this other stuff, if it doesn't come up that you guys felt that it needed a variance and then somebody decided to contest this because it specifically says that, you know, at some point the height is more than 30 feet, you know, if somebody decides to do an Article 78 or something because you guys didn't look at this, I figured it was safer that you actually weighed in on it one way.
Yeah,
or the
I
other.
agree. Just out of curiosity, though, I wonder what Martin would say. In other words, if we did go with some kind of average that I mean, this is all hypothetical, but suppose there was an average. We decided that there was an average that was exactly 30 feet. If somebody challenged it with an Article 78, I'm curious on what would Martin say about how defensible our decision would be. I mean, it's just, you know, maybe that's all hypothetical, but it is of interest.
so,
Yeah.
I mean,
I would
this,
just like to know more about how this average is going to be calculated.
well, can everyone read the definition? Because this actually is an unfamiliar definition to me. This must have changed in the last revisions to the zoning law. Jane, do you remember this? Because it
No, I
doesn't,
mean, the height, as far as I know, has been there since 2014.
I know, but the definition for height, because I thought it used to say average grade. That's what a lot of zoning laws say. This seems like you kind of interpret, it says
Oh, hold on,
vertical,
I'll look at what it happened, what it looked
Corresponding
like
to the
before
lot
this.
frontage.
yeah. Vertical distance between the bottom and top points of a building measured on the side or sides of the building corresponding to the lot frontage. So my first question is, does that mean basically take each side independently? Because it may have more than one piece that faces that side. The bottom point shall be the mean elevation at finished grade as measured at the face of the building on the side corresponding to the lot coverage. Top point shall be the highest point of a flat or mansard roof, the average height of the highest pitched gabled hip shed or gambrel roof.
No, that's the same definition that was before our change.
Is it really? Okay.
Yep.
It's so it's not. So when you read that, you take, I guess I was assuming that the highest, you take these in kind of sections because they're clearly two different,
Right.
pieces of roof. You don't average the full length of that top.
No, but I mean, it says the top point shall be the highest point of a flat or mansard roof, or the average height of the highest pitch gabled, hip, shed, or gambrel roof. So I guess,
So we're talking about the average height.
Right. But is it, do we sit there and say, okay, this is, this long elevation is one elevation, what's that average? Then you look at this one and you sit there and say, because it's two separate elevations, you can do this one as an average and it's going to work out to be probably less than 30 feet or whatever. And then this one's going to average out at the 27 feet or 26 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how much do you count this one?
Yeah.
Because this is where you look at, how much is that is at 3011, because the other elevation, the back elevation, is definitely way under the 30 feet.
Right. Yeah.
And we're comfortable with whatever you guys as a board would like. We're more than happy to ask for the 11-inch variance. But it's kind of, we didn't know how to treat it, and so we just listed it, and then we figured we'd leave it up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean it's
an either or on this
Right.
thing. So I guess you could sit there and try to calculate based on, overall lengths to come up with an actual number and see what it came out to be. If, but then we're going to end up with a weird number that doesn't match either of them. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I guess it seems like we have two distinct parts, and they're both of them large enough that it's appropriate. They're both like multiple times the scale of a typical single family dwelling or something. So it's, so I think it's reasonable to kind of approach it the way you'd have. I guess what's making me wonder is, like, if there was a house with a tower, do you go to the midpoint of the tower, or somehow can the tower stick up 50 feet as long as other pieces are much lower?
My question is, what's the intent of that height restriction? Is it to keep buildings below a certain height from a visual perspective?
I mean, I think that certainly the difference between 30 and 31 feet is a little bit arbitrary, is not arbitrary. But I think it's just generally to kind of keep it's not requiring you to meet that height, so everything doesn't have to be equal, but it just establishes a general threshold beyond which there's a variance process.
I'm sure the Cooper Inn across the street is taller than 30 feet.
My house is taller than 30 feet.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot.
Right.
But
I'm just saying, I can't, if I sit there and determine something, I can't just say, well, because all these other places aren't, because that's going to definitely allow somebody to come into the village and argue it.
Yeah, they could.
So,
non-conforming. Yeah.
I have no problems if you guys think that I can get away with just calculating, looking at every facade as a individual facade, adding up all the lengths, and then doing averages for that calculation all the way around the whole perimeter and coming up with a number. I have no problems doing that. It's just hard to decide, or,
I see what you're saying now. I hate to be difficult. However, that's a piece of information I would like to have. In other words, I would still be okay voting on an 11-inch relief. But if doing all those calculations, that is what we would be doing with another place, if doing all those calculations meant that we only had to give 7 inches of relief, That's at least useful to know. I might still vote for 11 inches of relief,
Right.
but
Well, I'm thinking that
it
based
would
on
be of
the,
interest to me.
right, based on the lower roof, there wouldn't be a variance request at all if we
Yeah.
sat there and looked at all the heights, but
That's a piece that's of interest to me.
Does a definition describe, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, is it a building? It's the midpoint of it. Can you read that if it says building, and then we can determine what a building is, and if that's one attached unit, that might help us determine.
well, and the other argument is when you actually read the first line of the definition, it's vertical distance between the bottom and top points of the building measured on the side of the building corresponding to the lot frontage. So technically, I would argue that this is lot frontage,
Yes,
correct, Josh? I mean, would you look at it that
Yeah.
way?
yes.
So then do I sit there and do, this much width-wise is X amount and this month much? Because I'd still have to probably, do you count this whole bit, or do you count only, this distance, or do you just sit there and say from here to here and the average is the 30 foot 11 inches?
I'm not on the board, but it seems like the safest thing might be to ask for an 11-inch variance.
Well, that's what I mean. I think in the long run, you're going to be coming probably for other variances because of the trash enclosures and stuff like that. So I don't think.
Isn't that already on our list?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm just saying,
I-
it's not just coming for a variance for the height. It's kind of looking
Right,
at,
but- Okay.
I would suggest the request a variance for the height.
Yeah. But so are we
There's
saying,
different ways of interpreting it.
right,
Mhm.
but we should try to set a way to kind of, go forward as we may have this question come up another time.
Yeah.
So basically what we're interpreting is that when you have significant blocks like this, that you look at the average of a block as opposed to the entire side. Because I would say the more I look at this definition measured on the side, every time you take an individual side, that 11
But
inch,
it's only addressing the lot frontage side,
Yes.
if you read the definition.
okay, but
And they make it look like there's multiple, the side or sides of the building corresponding to the lot frontage.
so that would be the 30 feet, 11 inches, because it's only on the front.
Correct.
That's the
I mean,
highest midpoint.
But like I said, we've never had any of these issues before because we've never technically ever had new buildings since I've been here. So
Yeah.
we've never had to address, and the couple we've had have been well under the 30 feet. So we never had a situation like this where it's such a large structure that when you look at the overall length from here to here, even with a reasonably pitched roof, the average is much more than what it would be at a normal house width.
Okay, no, I would say that is most consistent with the definition, just to take this one elevation. The average is the 30 feet 11, so there's a need for an 11-inch variance.
Mhm.
All right, so what other variance issues might
And
there
then,
be?
Jane, if you go back to the site plan,
Yep.
we would like to put bike racks and trash and recycling along the fence here. You've got the bike racks that I guess that might not apply if they're just sitting on the ground and not really a structure.
And they're
Yeah,
less than
They're
4
under
feet
4
tall.
feet generally.
Okay, then the ones towards the bottom of the page, the idea was to put like 96-gallon trash cans that have a lid and whatnot inside a small enclosure right along that fence there.
Just a fenced enclosure or a roofed enclosure?
The idea would be low, but it would have a roof just to kind of keep them out of sight and under cover.
And how tall would those be?
The trash cans are about just right around 4 feet, and then the enclosure would have to be another 1.5 feet or so bigger.
Uh-huh.
So.
And there's
The
a tall fence there. Do you know how tall
the
that
fence that's there now is a lot taller than me, so it's probably 6, maybe 7 feet tall.
So you don't see anything higher than the fence?
No,
Okay. All right,
Who
yeah,
owns that fence? Who owns that fence?
Well, must be Mark King's there, right?
I believe the Kingsleys put it up.
Yes.
Looks like it's around their house. Okay, all right. And then what about parking spaces? Because I don't think you have one per bedroom, do you?
We actually, this hatched area up here, we are going to be adding 2 additional parking spots there.
All right,
Which moves us up to 21 parking spots. This was a change since our submission to the trustees, just based on some of the questions they asked. The egress lane used to be a 1 lane going out to Pine Boulevard, and now it's a 2 lane. Just to make sure that we don't cause undue traffic on the village lane or any kind of traffic for the inn. And then we were only at 19 parking spots. And so the thought was to add 2 parking spots there.
okay.
So what's the requirement? How many parking spots per unit?
One per bedroom. So
Oh, one per bedroom.
Unit,
Up to
2
2
parking spots.
bedroom, yep. Studio and 1 bedroom need 1 space, and a 2 bedroom needs 2 spaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where was that? That was up there.
So I just had a general question, which I didn't get a chance to ask before. How does this comply with the density requirements?
The lot coverage, you mean?
We do not do density anymore. We eliminated that as far as a requirement for so much square footage per unit. We now basically have a minimum lot size, and then we have a lot coverage requirement. That in this district, no more than 60% of the lot can be parking and the structure and things like that. So it doesn't count for landscaping, anything like that, but anything that's like a required parking space or the building has to be removed from that.
So does this meet that lot coverage requirement, 60%?
Yes. Was that in the site plan, Josh? That table?
I don't know that it's on the site plan, but it does meet it. Jane has all of the square footage numbers, and I'm happy to read them if anyone is interested.
But is
This should
that,
be
does
this
that
is it right
consider
here.
that entire lot that goes all the way out to Pine Boulevard?
It does not take into account the lot goes to Pine Boulevard. The
Okay,
lot to Pine Boulevard is simply going to be, I don't know what they call it. It'll have like deeded access to use the 2 parking spots and the egress lane.
So the lot you're talking about is from Chestnut to the Village Lane
Correct.
in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 lots total. There's 1 on Pine Boulevard, and then there's 2 on the Chestnut Street side.
Yep.
And the 2 lots on Chestnut Street total 20,508 square feet. And the building takes up 8,447 square feet, and the parking area is 3,612 square feet, which gives us a combined area of 12,059 square feet, which accounts for 58.8% lot coverage.
And then you still have the other piece of property that'll be basically undeveloped.
Correct. Yes.
Well,
Okay.
And
for now,
if anything
For
were to
now,
happen-
but I mean, they would have to come back for
Sure.
some kind of variance or, you know,
Yeah.
inspection of anything that they additionally put on.
If anything were to happen to the Pine Boulevard lot, the egress way and the parking spots would be counted against that lot coverage from the start too.
yeah.
So that's, I guess, how they get factored in.
Okay.
So I had a question on that egress street or passage. Is that going to be paved?
I would imagine so. I haven't had that particular discussion, but I would assume that all the gray would be asphalt.
Even the 30-foot part of the lane?
Well,
Oh.
this part probably won't
That's
be.
owned by the village.
Right.
Right, but it's, okay, so you're just saying the part that's on your own?
Sorry,
property.
yes. Our part that we own
Yeah,
would be
okay.
asphalt. I don't know what the village will do with their part. I know that I see that it goes farther past our property to the top of the screen, but I don't know that the village would actually do that.
I doubt it.
Seems
Yeah.
like the village would have to do some improvements in order to get to your parking there, because it's not even gravel, is it now?
It's kind of like grass right now.
Yeah,
Well, it really doesn't go anywhere
No. And it's
past,
on a hillside there too.
yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it would.
It really ends at that second lot there that's shown
There.
Yeah.
right there.
there's a
It
hydrant
doesn't-
there somewhere, right?
The hydrant's all the way back down where the Pine Street lot hits it.
Okay. Okay,
So those are the kind of the issues that come up and fall under your board.
so that is just the height variance for the shed and the setback.
Yep.
And the height variance, the 11-inch dimension. Okay,
And you're going to get more information about the trees.
I will do a tree count and find out if we actually need a variance.
Okay.
If we do need a tree variance, will there be a public hearing? Is that something that falls under that?
every variance is a public hearing. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I will get those to Jane, hopefully in the next couple days. And that way, hopefully we can, if we need a variance for trees, we can add that to next month's public hearing.
Is that okay with everybody? We handle it that way?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
I just had another, so the setback from the property line is going to be 10 feet all around the building?
Yes, the minimum setback for the primary structure is 10 foot on the sides. And so we've got a 10-foot setback on the north and the south, larger than that in the back and larger than that in the front.
Okay.
Yeah, this side yard setback is for the trash enclosure.
Yeah, I understand that.
No, the building is actually located outside of the setback. So the building itself does not need to go for any kind of location variance.
Right.
So.
Right. So just for the broad look at how this is going to go through the village reviews, it actually has to end up going to all 4 boards for different aspects.
Correct.
Or for anything that needs a variance, each bar, obviously, the trustees have to review it from a standpoint of which is the larger one, if you ask me, the special permit use, because that's only allowed, I think was it more than 3 units or something? You have to go in a multi.
Correct. More than
It's a
3
special
units.
Yeah.
Correct.
So without the special use permit, this one is limited to 6
Right.
based on the 2 front lots.
Okay. And then to planning board for site plan review. So I'll have scrutiny on a lot of the different aspects, but ours seems.
Right.
pretty
So the planning board, I assume, is going to be handling all the parking plan issues along with things like grading and stuff like that. So.
I just had one other question. Given the number of units, number of people, is there going to be some way to address, trespass into neighboring properties along the public lane? Who would handle that?
What do you mean?
Well, if people wanted to come out of their apartment and walk up the public lane across other property, is that addressed by some mechanism in the village to either post signage or restrict access in some way?
Well, I mean, I don't understand. I guess I don't understand. It's a public lane, so it's public. I mean,
Yeah, but
I
to
don't, I
the,
mean, my property is not posted. I mean, is that what you're,
well, I'm a neighboring property owner, so I don't want
so
people.
you're
coming
worried that, what do you, I mean, so tell me more about this.
Well, if they come out of the building, go to the back, walk on the public lane to the top of the sheet, it ends there, but there's like a little pathway there that goes over my property. So I don't want them to get the sense that they can use that and get access to Pine Boulevard to go to the Otesaga Hotel, for example.
Shortcut or something.
Yeah.
I mean, we can address that with Josh, but.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do something. I would say we'd put a fence across the public alley to keep people from going that way, but I don't think we're allowed to put a fence.
No, I don't think we need a
alley.
fence. I just want to have something that we can
Yeah,
use to help, deter
corral
that from
people in the
happening.
right direction.
Right.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with you on that.
Or put it in your,
people.
put it in your lease agreements or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? All right,
No.
so we'll set up a public hearing for, after our other public hearing next time for the height variance, for a variance to allow the shed in the setback, and if necessary, a tree count, if more than 30% of trees need to be removed in order to accommodate your proposed plan.
So I just
Now,
had
I
one-
would, as far as trees, just to let you guys know how I'm looking at it and see, I mean, I'm determining this as this project is the two properties that are going to be joined together that off of Chestnut Street. I am
Yeah.
not counting the trees on the third lot as part of this project. So when
Okay.
I need a number of trees, we can address the Pine Boulevard tree removal as its own thing, but those trees are not counting towards the 10 Chestnut property.
Good point.
So really, the only trees that we need to look at as far as what's being removed for this project are the ones that are on either the long skinny property or the property that is behind the Kingsley's house right now.
Right.
I think it's also useful to know what's going on with the neighbors' trees. I mean, it seems that I picked up on the fact that there are some issues with neighbors' trees. I mean, it's just of interest to know because, when somebody walks down the street, they're looking at, how much greenery is there. They're not saying, oh, well, that's the property line is there.
Right.
So I mean, I think that getting more information about what's going on with the neighbors' trees might be of use. I mean, don't beat it dead, don't go crazy over it, but I think
But I'm just saying, when we look at the calculation for this project, whether it needs a
Sure.
public hearing, is just the trees on the two lots and not the
Right.
third Pine Boulevard lot.
right, I agree.
Yeah, I presume I would look at Pine Boulevard independently, and
Right.
if there's any sense that in order to put in that drive, you have to remove more than 30%, then you have to do that as a separate calculation. But
Yes.
then the two lots at 10 Chestnut, I feel like with neighbors' trees, I can't speak for the Kingsley side, but on the north side, the fact that, well, on both sides really, the fact that it has that full 10-foot setback, that seems like the best of all possible worlds to preserve neighbors' trees.
Right.
Yeah, there's only one tree on the north side that is a huge dead tree that is on the neighbor's property that we offered to remove, because if it falls on the building, the neighbor's going to get a really big bill, and so
Yeah,
it
there's
made
quite a
sense
few
to-
trees along that side of the building, but with that 10-foot setback, I don't think there shouldn't be an issue. And there's some big trees, so.
Yeah, there's some big trees, but yeah, out of all of them, there's only one that there's only one that's dead, and the rest would all be just left as is.
Thanks. All right. So this, Jane, did I understand, like, this is going to be reviewed by the boards at the last board to review it? Is it going to be the trustees? Is that how this is set, laying out?
Well, it's going to HBARB next week to start the process. It has to have a public hearing for that because of the demolition of the existing buildings. So they can, they could review and accept the design of the proposed building, but it definitely needs to go back in June for the public hearing for the removal of the existing buildings. Planning board, the same thing. Site plan review requires a public hearing. So at the earliest, I would say that they would be done in their June meeting, depending on how much information they're going to require as far as, things like drainage and stuff like that. I'm not sure what they're going to, ask for. And then next month, or the end of this month, the trustees have scheduled the public hearing for this project with the understanding that they might not have, they'll have the recommendations from the 3 boards, or from at least from the 2 boards, whether HPARB wanted some requirements or whether planning board wants specifics written into the public here or for the special use permit. But there, I would anticipate that even though the public hearing is set for the end of May, that it most likely will follow through till the end of June, just because with the other 2 boards having public hearings in June, I don't think they would be willing to approve the public or the special use permit without knowing that first it's met the hurdles of both HPARB and planning board.
So so speaking about the other boards, is there going to be some assessment of the water supply impacts of having all those additional users of the water supply in this area?
That would be something that the planning board looks at. I don't know what kind of requirements they will choose to address or not address. I mean,
just don't want it to affect my water pressure.
I guess that would be something that, needs to be communicated with Mitch too, then, just to kind of check to make sure that there won't be issues.
And also on the wastewater capacity of the drainage along that street. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so we're set there. Thank you very much, Josh.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
And is Georgia here?
No, she has not come on, and I can kind of run it through you as far as what she's hoping for. I just got rid of it, but I should probably just call it up again.
So I had a question, since I'm an adjacent landowner, with this before the zoning board of appeals, do I need to recuse myself from any votes on this property?
That would be a Susan question.
Well, I'm going to ask Denise, do you have any? I mean, I think it's really more of like a personal decision. I don't know that there are like black
Any
and white
requirements?
rules.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you feel like you can be an impartial person, but if you feel like you can't be an impartial person, I would recuse yourself. But do you have any other guidance, Denise?
I don't. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure if it's a conflict, because it's not like, anyone's being paid, Randy's not being paid for anything. But I don't know that. And is that something that, do you ever bring questions to the attorney, like you're the attorney of the village, to say, is this appropriate or not appropriate?
Yeah, maybe I can ask him that.
Yeah, I just would feel maybe, I mean, if it's not an issue, I'll continue to participate. I mean, I can listen in, but just not be part of any official action.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't know if it's ever come up with you before in this context, but.
I would say we don't end up recusing ourselves very often unless you're like professionally involved in a project.
Okay.
Marcy, did
What
you
about
recuse?
me?
I was
What
going to
about
say,
me?
did you recuse yourself for the Dunn property? When
Which
they went for
one
the
is
special?
that? Oh, I'm
special
thinking
use
of the
permit?
other one when the The Who's What's owned it. I think that was before your time, Jane.
On the other side of you?
Yes.
12
Did you recuse yourself?
Susquehanna. I'm just asking, she was neighbors to a short-term rental.
I can't remember about the Dunns. I cannot remember.
I feel like if you wanted to make a public comment as a public, you did.
Right, yeah, I can't remember what I did. I think actually, now that I think about it, I think with the Dunns, I did recuse myself and join the public hearing. So that would be, that's the difference, if you want to make, what are your comments? Are your comments having to do with the, I mean, not that public hearings aren't referendums, they're not popularity contests, but people frequently interpret them that way. And
Yeah.
I think with the Dunns, I did go into, I recused myself and joined the public hearing.
So just to kind of beat this dead horse, so what if Randy wanted to go into the public hearings for HPARB and the trustees and everybody except the zoning board? That seems like it also might cross that line where it'd be wise to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, interesting.
So
I don't
do you
know,
think
maybe
that-
talk it through with Martin.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
because the
interesting
question
just
would
going
be, we are all members, we all live here, so
Yeah.
different things impact us that we might have opinions about,
I know.
which doesn't necessarily mean we have to recuse ourselves. But I do think it should be a conversation with Martin to get sort of a rule.
I think that's why it's so confusing, because we are to serve, we're required to live here.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously the reason for that is because we have skin in the game.
Yep,
But
of course.
yeah, when it's actually, the people next door to me are going to have a, do something that will affect me. It's a
Well,
tough
we have a
one.
right to speak up about those issues.
Well, exactly. I mean, and similar, I've often wondered, we're in a small enough community that a lot of people, what if it's your child's teacher who comes before the board, should you
Yeah.
recuse yourself then? Can you be impartial? I don't, does it depend on whether you like the teacher or not? It's kind of
Hopefully not.
yeah.
And
It's the
hopefully it's a bonus,
impartiality
right?
that's, I mean, I'm just remembering back to the Dunns. I frankly don't remember my position. I don't remember what I said. I know they had spoken with me, and I was friends with them. It was a very friendly relationship. And I don't think I voted. I think I was okay on it, So I wasn't upset about it. But yeah, I think I did recuse myself, because it was kind of, it was the kind of thing where there was the appearance of, not conflict of interest, but, appearance of bias.
This is just a
But
much bigger,
where do you go with that?
it's just that this is a much bigger project than trying to get a variance for a fence. So
Right.
it has bigger implications for the neighborhood than, something smaller, which
Right.
is
But
not.
I would say the
not
bigger
advantage.
issues are almost more the trustee issues and things like that. I feel like that
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
all variances are important, but these are pretty minor given the scale of this development.
Correct.
But some people do take, I mean, this has always been a problem for me, because things have come before us that are really, in the scheme of things, very minor requests. And yet some people will grab it and say, well, this is my chance to, undo something that I don't want, and puts us in a position of turning down, a 2-inch variance when we wouldn't do that in another situation. I mean, it's very difficult. It's very
Well,
difficult.
it's subjective in a lot of respects, but
Yeah,
anyway, I just wanted to raise that question. I didn't know if that was a.
No, it's a
it's
good
always
question.
interesting.
And I bet you there's not I bet you there's a simple answer, but it's still going to be an unsatisfactory.
No, I know what Martin will tell you. I mean, I've talked with him. I mean, I've had this, you know.
I don't think
I've
he
talked
would
with- I know
say-
he's going to tell you, well, let's talk it through. It's a personal decision. You know, I mean, you're not going to get a yes. You're not going to get a nice, simple answer. I can tell you that right there.
And if you have the regular members of the board available to vote, then I'm not engaged anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it could be a moot point.
Could be a moot point.
But this is unusual that we have 6 here tonight, so.
Yeah, yeah. But it is an issue that comes up and will
Yeah.
continue. And like I say, I've encountered it before and, you know, I've made personal decisions, as Martin would tell me to do, but I don't know that I have a template to follow.
Understood.
All right. Well, I'll share whatever advice he gives me.
Thank you.
All
Yeah, no
right.
problem.
So that was a good question though. Let's move on to 50 Chestnut Street, Georgia Meter. An area variance, although as I read through the application, it was not really clear until she gets the survey whether or not she is.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
just
kind
that
of-
one corner of the garage, right? That's
What she's anticipating is that depending, I mean, and I don't think she's really totally laid it out yet. She theoretically is having the survey done this month.
Uh-huh.
So I would guess that until we actually have the survey, that you really can't, I mean,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
can sit there and say there's going to be a variance, but we don't know how much or anything like that.
We don't want to find out how much it is like 3 days before the public hearing either.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, you know, if what I would say is if when I go to put the notice in, if I've gotten the survey, then I feel like I can go ahead and post it. But if she hasn't gotten me the survey by the time, so that's like, you know, in 2 weeks, or actually today's the 4th, so like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah.
So the survey though, I mean, it's between she has a, I don't know if it's a dispute between neighbors, but apparently as far as the documentation goes, there seems to be a discrepancy between lot 19 and 18, determining what the actual property line is. That's what I understood from the reading.
Yeah.
How
I
about
mean,
the line with the White House Inn? Is that, does everybody agree on
I mean,
that?
right now there's fences there, but who's to say whether those are the actual property
Oh,
lines?
okay, yeah.
You know, and that's why until she actually gets the survey done, I would assume that nothing is, you know, the same, you know, correct. She believes based on the assessment drawings that the garage on lot 18 is basically on the property line, but you know, nobody knows for sure anything, you know. So what she was hoping to do is basically create a 5-foot area here, but she needs enough room here that vehicles and stuff can get from this corner through into this backyard, because she has quite a deep property that she wants access to. So if you guys don't feel confident, I have no problems not letting it go through.
Is she in a big hurry?
I don't believe that this is gonna, I think she's hoping to have this figured out by next fall so that come winter time, they have a garage. But that's all I can sit there and say for sure.
Is it a garage or a shed?
It's, well, it's
Oh.
a 14 by 24.
Yeah,
It's big enough to, I think she actually had some drawings.
I think she calls it.
Yeah, she had said there's a garage, I think.
I mean, it's like this right here.
Yeah, that's the company that's making it, but she had a garage
Right.
door. I guess you could drive in it, but she's not maybe planning on that.
Yeah, it didn't
Right.
sound like it was more for storage.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's like
that's
a lot of
why-
garages I know.
So I'm not positive one way or the other exactly, and that's why without her here, it's hard to. sit
Has
there and
H-Barb looked
determine.
at this?
No,
Oh,
this is
okay.
the first time that
Okay.
anybody's seen anything.
Wow, that lot's
So,
240 feet deep. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
Very long.
So, and that's why I'm saying she wants to make sure that she can get between this structure and the house to get back in here.
Mhm.
But right now, she know there's pins already located here and here because this property's had a survey within the last 2 years or whatever. But those are the only 2 points she knows for sure. So she needs somebody to, so she's taking like this number and just kind of measuring 65 feet, but that's based on just the county assessment drawings. It's not really accurate necessarily per deed. So, and we don't know whether these lines are perfectly parallel or things like that till the survey gets done.
Which of those lots is the White House in? What is it called?
17.
17.
Oh, 17, okay.
Yeah, so 18 is sort of squashed in there.
I see that.
Well, if I thought the survey was coming in the next week, I would say we might proceed, but I personally would be, just say, when you have the survey, come back to us.
Yes, I agree with that,
Yeah.
my opinion.
Me too.
Not just the survey, but I mean
Okay.
specifically how you're going to respond to the survey information too. All right,
So,
Yeah, it's not really a complete application
Yeah.
without the survey.
Right.
so it only takes 15 minutes. Okay.
actually, even like the little plan here,
What is it?
it's 12 feet wide, and on her site plan drawing, it's 14 feet wide, so there's some confusion. And then there's something else that's 13 feet 4 inches wide. Draft sample, never mind. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so we will just, we've had a preliminary look at this, and we'll wait till we have survey information and a more specific understanding of what variance is needed. All right, moving on to minutes.
Wasn't here, but I read them and they look great.
Thank you.
We just had barely enough for the meeting last time.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I apologize again. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just, I don't think that's ever happened to me before.
Hey, how many years have you been on this board?
I know. That has never happened to me before. I hope that's not a harbinger of the future. Oh. But Jane sent me a text to remind me. So I hope, and I thanked her. I hope that continues because I need it, obviously.
So who was it? It was Georgia and Randy and me? Was that who was here last time? Okay. All right. So the three of us, we read the minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve, or anyone have any?
I'm
change?
back.
I
I'm
actually
sorry.
do have a question in perfect timing, Jane, regarding the, like, I know that they haven't continued with the official permit applications, but as far as the legal definition of a shooting gallery, I was curious because everywhere, like the Oxford Dictionary describes or defines shooting galleries as being specific to guns. So I was.
Well, like I said, he has accepted the fact that he was kind of going for something, because even if it wasn't that, it's still hard to argue what it is. I mean, if you look at our list of permitted uses, it doesn't really qualify for anything anyway.
Right.
It was, it's not a restaurant, it's not a personal service shop, it's not a retail shop, it's, so because it didn't fall under those, no matter what, it would have to be either something that, it's, if it doesn't exist in the code, then it's not permitted, basically is what I've always been taught.
Yeah, that's what it says in the code. It also, like, when it talks about shooting galleries, it says, or similar amusements, or there's more
Yeah.
technology than just. So
Right,
That's
I
usually the
wasn't-
fallback, not limited to, including but not limited to.
Right. I mean, I never classified it as a shooting gallery. I was always classifying it as a similar type of operation.
Gotcha.
And like I said, it basically stated that it's not permitted. So in any place in the village. So it was just one of those things.
And Perry's, I mean, since our last meeting, I think he would, we left it that he was going to come back with more specific responses for us to be able to begin that process formally. And I think he realizes what a challenge a use variance is. So it's Jane's understanding that he will be withdrawing, or that he's not pursuing any of the various ideas that were discussed last time.
It's a disappointment.
Correct.
It's almost like you wanted to have a brainstorming session with us as opposed to presenting a proposal that we could
Yes.
act on.
But that's Perry. It's,
Yeah,
well,
understood.
what can I do? What can I do?
I kind
Which
of like
is
that
actually,
idea.
it's kind of okay. It's kind of okay, and it's almost like they're consulting us. I never mind those things.
Oh, I thought it was good. It
Yeah.
was just interesting for me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not a problem.
I mean, the most interesting thing to me was how different, how we all kind of, our initial reactions were different based on whether I had never even heard of hack storing before. So I approached it way more negatively than I should have I didn't have an open mind at all, but I'm trying to open it up. But it was just interesting, the kind of our gut kind of reactions were quite different. And differently receptive to it. So maybe if it becomes a thing that we have to think about having more clarity in the law, that or other similar things.
It's a thing now.
Pursue
It's
that.
a thing.
Yeah.
I've been in one.
Good.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to get a lot more of these as hopefully the village vision starts to actually progress forward. We might to see some new things come before this that we're not prepared for. So it'll be nice.
The problem with that though is until you have the actual, if you're talking about like amusement arcades or something like that, until it actually gets addressed and revised in the code going forward,
we're
nobody
not
can
going
do
anywhere with it.
So
they can have it down at oh, come on, Hartwick Seminary, or what is that where they have the fun park?
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's something that you think that it needs, it shouldn't have been included as prohibited, then it needs to go through the trustees who then pass it on to the planning board and stuff like, it has to actually get rewritten in the code. So it's something that the zoning board doesn't do. Has to go through the other boards, and you need to start going after, get your group of people and start badgering the trustees then or something.
Good.
Yeah.
I had one other correction. I'm really sorry. My last name is misspelled.
Oh, that's fine.
That's okay. It was just one extra P. Doesn't matter. It was only in that one spot too.
Oh, okay.
It's like Sapphire. It was probably autocorrect.
No, it was two P's instead of just the one for some reason. But
page was that on? What page was that on?
I just scrolled past it and lost myself. Page 4.
Page 4. Okay.
All right. Any other changes?
No, I didn't have any. I read the thing through.
Anyone want to make a motion with that amendment?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
All right. Second? I'll second. Further discussion? Susan, aye. Randy?
I'm not voting, right? Or do I because I was there?
Minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
Aye.
Georgia?
Aye.
Yeah, we can only have people who are at the meeting vote on the minutes for that meeting. All right, good. I think we're done. Unless anyone has anything else they want to have a question about? Okay.
Good discussion.
Thank you
Yeah,
all.
always fun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Yeah,
everyone.
good one.
All right.
Right.
I need to stop.